Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone that has joined us today. This session is being recorded, so if you're unwilling or unable to be part of the recording, you may drop off. We're planning to go for about 30 minutes today. My name is Ismail Nalwala, and I'm the CEO of IoTap. My company, IoTap, is a Microsoft Cloud Solutions partner, and Work365 is the application that we've developed on Dynamics 365 for cloud services companies like us. So today we will talk about a couple of very exciting topics. Both of these topics are essentially around features and updates that are coming up in our October release. I will be doing some polls through the presentation, so I request your participation. This gives us the feedback we're looking for, right? So hopefully everybody can see my screen. I'm going to continue to move forward. If you can't, please just send me a message in the chat window. All right, moving on. So a quick look at our agenda today. We will cover two major updates, as I mentioned, that are in our upcoming release, and I will focus the time on walking you through the application experience. So everyone here is hopefully aware that you can use Work365 for recurring billing, CSP automation of subscriptions. Work365 has subscription management, recurring billing capabilities where you can generate, manage, and track subscriptions. And generate these invoices automatically. We have now extended that capability to allow us to track cloud and subscription-based sales, commissions, and incentives. Also, we'll talk about how you can use Work365 to get compliant with the Microsoft Cloud agreement. That's going to come into effect very soon. And we have a new onboarding experience as well for partners using Work365 to start engaging with their customers directly from within the application. All right, I'm going to do a quick poll next. So just bear with me for 1 second, please. I have launched the poll. If you could just please respond, that would be highly appreciated. I will close the poll in about 30 seconds. So all right, fantastic. I'm going to close the poll here. I don't have everybody voted at about 60%, so maybe I'll give it another 10 seconds. Okay, great. I'm going to close the poll now and share the results. So it's a fairly good mix. It looks like some of us are doing this, have a system, and some of us are doing this, and it's manual. And a third of us really want to kind of do this and are looking for a way to do this. So hopefully we have something in this presentation for everyone. I know in the audience, I can tell that there's a mix of partners that are current users of Work365 and some of you that are brand new. So hopefully you'll be able to benefit from what I'm going to show you next. I'll hide the poll here. We'll move on here. So first off, I want to say about sales incentive planning and designs, that it's a very complex, involved subject that requires probably a combination of data science and even guesswork that most sales managers put in. And I'm definitely not an expert on sales compensation plan designs, but what I know is that the cloud and subscription models are creating unique challenges, right? So in our traditional sales models, we have we would measure things like, annual contract values. Deal values are usually sizable. Salespeople are trained to hunt for nice size deals. There's a predictable payment and invoice schedule. It's usually a high touch sales, and also it's focused around services. So if you're, it's around focused services rather. So if you're an MSP, you're probably going to be focused on Microsoft 365, Office 365, and Azure. And if you're a VAR, or a Dynamics partner, you're probably going to be looking at different SKUs, the application SKUs. However, now things are a little bit different, right? Things are changing for all of us. So instead of higher deal values, we actually have higher deal volumes. Instead of just looking at ACVs, we have things like auto renewals and perpetual agreements. We have a much larger range of services we can actually sell. And there is some variability with the annual contract values with the invoicing that happens every month. Customers can add and manage their quantities and licenses and things like that on a monthly basis. So as leaders and managers, you're working through this transition to the cloud and the variable compensation for sales. Sales team is sort of a critical aspect, and to manage this, is a struggle. And there are tools and systems to be able to do this. Some of the challenges we have with billing and invoicing of subscriptions in the cloud model are also all relevant to the sales incentive tracking. So Work 365 lends itself very nicely to extend this capability of subscription invoicing into sales incentive tracking as well, right? So hopefully you can see that. So now let's look at a scenario where we can model and track a typical sales incentive plan with Work 365, right? So in this situation, we say we have a company, a fictitious company, usually I use Sky Blue, that is selling 3 types of items. It's got a managed service offering, it's got cloud subscriptions that it sells, and it's got its own IP as well, right? The company pays incentives to its sales teams based on the invoice value for these different offerings. Each type of product class has a different incentive scheme. So for resale, it's a margin-based incentive based on gross profit, gross margin. For IP, it may be on revenue. And for services or managed services, again, it may be on revenue, right? The incentive is paid out on a quarterly basis, and the salesperson is eligible to earn this commission for a period of up to 1 year, right? So how would we model this in our Work 365 system? So, with the new version of the application, you'll see this new section in there called incentives. I'm pointing it out here. We'll keep moving on here. And within, so based on the scenario for this partner, we're going to review what these active incentive templates should look like, right? This is a way to define the organization's incentive schemes based on the product class. So as you can see, we've defined the 3 product classes and different amounts for the classes in each of the for each of the templates, right? So in fact, I have 2 classes here, the IP resale and the product resale. We don't have the services here, but what you will notice is the 2018 plan is set up and active, and the 2019 plan is also set up and active. It's possible to do that in the system to set up your future plans. All right. So now that the templates are defined, the salesperson is able to add and create incentive line plans by adding billing contracts and all the subscriptions within them to their incentive line plan. So what I'm looking at here is a list of billing contracts that are created in the system. Each of these billing contracts have multiple subscriptions. They could be a combination of, a service subscription, a license-based subscription, or even a usage-based subscription for Azure. And on top of the ribbon here, you see a button that says Add to Incentive Plan. All right. Now the experience is going to look something like this, where the salesperson can click the add button, and they'll be presented with a pop-up where they have to confirm what they want to do going forward. All the subscriptions from that billing contract are processed for this salesperson, and next you can see that this salesperson is actually Yusuf Khatri's done this, and he's got a whole bunch of incentive line plans created, right? Now, each one represents a subscription that was in the billing contract. Each subscription has its own incentive parameters based on the plan. So this allows the sales manager or the finance team to now edit the incentives for that specific salesperson. So if you need to adjust it at the individual level, you can do that. This uses the same principle as a subscription selling price in Work 365. So even though you may have a master product defining and dictating the price of each subscription, you can modify that in the subscription, and the same thing can be done here, where you can modify these incentive amounts that you see here on the screen for each of these plan items. A scenario can be where, in the case of a commission split where you have multiple salespeople or a team, where you're able to then make an adjustment for both of them. All right. Okay, so now if you opened up one of those items, this is what the form would look like. And as a salesperson, you can see only your plans, by the way. You can't plan items. You can't see other people's plan items. So only the admin or the finance team has access to see plans across the board. Now, as a salesperson, I've opened this up. The system shows the incentive basis, the expiration, which is based on the template that we defined. And the subscription start date and various other parameters that they can look at for this line plan, right? So one more thing I want to mention is that a subscription automatically can be only added once to that salesperson. So that salesperson's line item plan. All right. Now, based on each of those plans, you accrue earnings when the invoicing job runs. So the idea is that as the organization earns its revenue through the sales of these subscription services by generating the invoices, the salesperson also accumulates earnings along the way. So these earnings are not attached to a payout as of yet. They're the current earnings that have actually not been added to a payout, and they're visible to the salesperson for them to get a sense of what's actually happening with their commission incentive payouts going forward. All right. So now what you see here is actually an incentive payout record. Now, just like, so what you saw on the previous screens were the actual line items now and the earnings. Now, as the earnings get processed on a periodic basis, the total earnings are accumulated into a payout record. Now, this payout record shows the earnings for each of these periods, shows the status of each of these payouts, and the status can be updated by finance. They say, look, this is under review, this has been approved, and this has been paid. Obviously, this person hasn't been paid any commissions yet, but as you can see, there's a commission plan, there's earnings, and then there's actually the payouts that actually all get tracked in the system. Okay, and if you open up one of these incentive payouts, this is potentially what it would look like, right? It's got each of the subscriptions that are part of that payout, what the amount is, and how that, and what is the calculation basis for that payout. All right, and as is convention and customary, you always have dashboards with CRM. So there's going to be a dashboard for the salesperson to kind of get a sense of how they're doing, what's actually unpaid, what the earnings were, and what the best, what the highest performing product or service offering was for them. All right. So with that, now I'm going to move into a slightly different topic, still a very important one. We'll wrap up the discussion there on the sales incentive calculation, and let's move on to the upcoming changes that we have in the application for the customer onboarding process. Obviously, we all want to do this every day. We want to onboard customers every day, but there are typically two scenarios generally for Microsoft Cloud customers. The customer that you want to work with may already have an Office 365 tenant set up, or the customer may be brand new to Microsoft Cloud services. So this flow is going to be a little different for direct billing partners, and indirect billing partners. Indirect billing partners, where we don't have integration with the provider, it's going to be a little different, but both types of partners that are using the application will get a lot of benefit out of this. All right, so this is a typical flow for a partner using an automatic provider. An automatic provider is one where we have integration with the provider, like the partner center. So the first step, in the onboarding process is basically the sale, right? The sales agreement is signed and the sale is complete. You will then request the relationship with an email. If you are adding the existing customer to your as a reseller for yourself, then you would go to the partner or partner center or the provider site to set up the customer. Basically create the tenant if you need to, fill in all the customer details, and possibly provision one subscription. You would then return back into Work 365, allow the automatic sync to work or sync the customer manually, and create the billing contract. And then you might sync the subscriptions and create the bundles and subscription relationship, and eventually that completes the full onboarding process. But as you can clearly see here in the way it works right now, there is a break in the system. You're going between between multiple systems, and we're trying to streamline this now, and I'll walk you through what the new workflow will look like. So in the new version of the application, you will see, sorry, let me back up here. Missing the slide here. Okay, well, that's fine. So you will see additional navigational items in the Work 365 menu. What I have here is basically the provider account form. Sorry, the account form that's open. And this is a customer that's actually just signed a deal with us, and you will notice that there's a button up on the top in the ribbon that says provision account. Right. When you click that button, this opens up the Work 365 application page, where you will be able to select the provider where you want to provision the account from. Now there's going to be two options. Either they're already an Office 365 customer or they're not. In the scenario where they're already an Office 365 customer, you'll want to provision the tenant. But in this case, if they're if in the scenario where this is not a new customer, you will send them the relationship directly from the system using this send email functionality. The link will be automatically available to you. The email is sent to the customer and they can sign up. Now, if you're an indirect partner, you're going to use your provider's link, your distributor's link here, and you may include two links. This will have two links for you. One is going to be potentially the administration link, and the other link that allows you to provision licenses for your customers through your distributor. So this is going to look a little different for indirect partners and direct partners. All right. Now, in the case where this is a new customer, we actually want to set up the tenant because the tenant doesn't really exist. This will not appear in the application for indirect partners because we may not have an automatic provider for you. All right, so this is going to be a little different for indirect partners. The next step basically opens up the form where all the information from the account form automatically gets populated. You can check the domain, you can verify the domain, and continue moving forward. It shows you all the contact details as well that are pulled in from the account form. Keep moving forward, and now once you do this, you essentially can conclude the onboarding form. So now you've basically taken the customer record from your CRM system, created a tenant in your provider, updated all the information there, and now the provider has successfully provisioned the tenant, and you get this information. Now you can either send this to your customer or move to the next step, in which case you're actually creating a billing contract. So you've gone from sale, tenant provisioning, to now straight into the billing contract. You fill in the details on the billing contract, on the start date, and various other quick, simple things that are required here. And as you move into the next step, you can then automatically provision subscriptions from the product catalog. So if you can imagine, not only can you provision the Microsoft CSP subscriptions, you will be able to provision your bundles directly for the customer. And if the bundle includes Office 365 subscriptions, they will automatically be provisioned for your customer. So streamlines the process. You're no longer jumping between the different systems. Now let's look at what the final process looks like. So instead of all those different stages, you now basically have a sale. You create the tenant within the system, you set up the billing contract right away, and you set up the subscriptions all from within Work 365, right? Now, the same experience will be available on the online store for customers to go through the self-service experience by themselves. A customer, in this case, we're doing it as a salesperson from within Work 365. On the online store, the customer can do this themselves as well. So, this is going to be hopefully a significant productivity booster as you do everything in one system, right? What this does really is it sends the email for the customer to accept the relationship. It creates the tenant, as you saw, with the data that you have in CRM. It will also create the provider account mapping. It marks and identifies the agreement date also in the provider system. It will allow you to obviously create the billing contract, as you've seen. And whether you're, I believe whether you're indirect or direct partner, this will simplify the process for you significantly. All right. Okay, so now that we talked about the onboarding process, we saw the agreement signing process in there as well. And I want to mention this as a separate item as well, because it's a requirement now that's coming up for everyone that's selling cloud subscriptions for Microsoft Cloud subscriptions. So after November 7th, we will be required to confirm that our end customers that have read and agreed to be bound by the Microsoft Cloud agreement. Partners will not be able to modify subscriptions through the CSP channel without confirming their customers have accepted the Microsoft Cloud agreement. There is a specific template based on the country or region your customer is in, and this URL actually can point you to that template. All right, this is why my slide is. Okay, this is what I wanted to mention in the previous section as well, but here it is now. So the additional capabilities around agreement management are under provider management. As you can see, these are new capabilities, these are new entities that will appear in the application. Let's walk through how you might set up an agreement for an existing customer. So you go to agreements, simple, you create a new agreement. Right now I see one agreement in my system. I basically, it opens up a quick simple form. You need to confirm when that was signed. And as soon as you do this, based on which partner center the customer was provisioned at, this automatically uses the API from within Work 365 to update the tenant and the partner center so that you're compliant and the date is known for when the agreement is signed. So the only thing you have to do is, for existing customers that you're working with, create a new record, make sure the provider is correctly populated, and fill in when and who signed the agreement. All right. I'm just going to do another quick poll here. So this is basically, give me some feedback on whether this was helpful and how we can do better. Let's give it another 20-30 seconds. Okay, almost done. All right, I'm gonna close the poll here. Thank you very much. So it looks like half the folks thought it was really helpful. Half of you thought it was somewhat helpful. That's great. It's good to know that nobody thought it was a waste of time. I will share this quickly and then I'll move on. So here's what we got in terms of results. Thank you very much for voting. And I think we are at the end now. So just a few final remarks. We're gonna be posting this recording on our Yammer site. We're gonna do another event in November, and just look out for your email, please, in terms of what's coming down the pipe from our roadmap standpoint in November. We're expecting the release of this version in a week or two. So again, that information will be posted on our Yammer site, and also is available to everyone who has the application from within the Help and About section. Everyone who has Work 365 installed will be able to get alerted on how to download the application, the new version, from within the application. Just some more information for you to connect with us and connect with me, and happy to take any questions now. We've got a few minutes. Open it up for questions. Oh, we have a lot of questions. All right. Sorry, I'm going to continue going through these. Please give me a minute. So a question was, as a Canadian direct CSP, is the Canadian Partner Center available? Yes, all partner centers are available. You can configure any partner center within the system. So whether you're in the US, Canada, or any other part of the world, you can set up a partner center connectivity from Work 365. Same question on the provider list you just showed, Microsoft US. That is just a sample. You can have any Microsoft Partner Center integrated with Work 365. In fact, we have partners that are using the application in about 20 countries now. In North America and Central America, we have customers and partners in Canada, in the US, in Central America as well. And we have a lot of partners in Europe using it in various different countries, and even in India. Okay. Thank you, Donovan, for that great comment. I appreciate that. And I think there was a question around, can you see the introductory tool? So please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to set up some time and show you the application. This is obviously a little advanced in terms of how some of the users who are using it will benefit from it. But if you're new to it, I'm happy to set up a demo. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Will this session be sent to us? Yes, but we usually post it on our Yammer site. So please join our Yammer group, and you'll have access to that, or subscribe to our webinars, our YouTube channel. It'll be posted there. Is there anything I'm missing? So there's a question about cost information. I'm happy to share that. It's probably best if we talk about that one-on-one, so I can explain to you the pricing model we have. Our pricing is based on certain capabilities like integration with the partner center and billing contracts typically. So depending on how many billing contracts you have, which is usually by the number of customers, you can your price will vary a little bit. So the question is, how much is Work 365? Again, that's another cost question. I'm happy to answer that one-on-one, but it's based on billing contracts and the integrations that you have in the system. And do indirect partners also have to have their customers sign cloud agreements? So the onus for indirect partners is probably going to be on your provider. Your provider will actually have to do this, but your provider may put the onus on you to say, hey, listen, we want you to talk to your customers and get the cloud agreement signed. The requirement is that everybody who is transacting with the Microsoft Cloud subscriptions needs to have an agreement in place. Now, whether your direct provider is doing it or whether you have to do it will basically depend on your relationship. Yes, the Microsoft Cloud Agreement requirement starts on November 7th. That's absolutely right. I don't know if I misspoke. I apologize if I did. Right now, you can transact. You can still sign the agreement. But after November 7th, you won't be able to purchase any more cloud subscriptions directly if the agreement is not in place. All right. I think we got a whole bunch of questions. I apologize if I missed anyone's question here. And I'm happy to set up some time one-on-one as well. So we're at 11:31. If there's no more questions, I will conclude this session. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you next month.